So, Ms. Kinsley, thank you for coming in to be able to tell your story. Let me just kind of set us up real quick. So, I know your family. I know your mom and your dad, and I was going through social media, and your mom had made a post about the grand opening of was it Little Ray's?
Yes.
Of your new store in downtown West Monroe and Antique Alley. And I started reading that little caption that the Chamber of Commerce had in there, and I'm like, wow, this young lady has been able to achieve what a lot of people want to do, but you've actually put it into action. So I reached out to your mom. I said, hey, look, I don't have a relationship with your daughter.
Yeah.
Would you mind seeing if she'd be interested coming in and be able to tell her story? Because I think you have actually, when I started kind of talking with your mom, there was a whole lot more than what I thought. So I'm like, this is a great opportunity for you to be able to come in and share your story, the ups and the downs of what got you to this point, and the possibility for other young people, or really someone at any stage of life can, if they have a passion and the willingness to be able to pursue it, that all things are possible.
Absolutely. I agree.
So before we get into kind of how the setup was, because your story, I think, has a lot of layers that really kind of built of when you were in college.
Mm-hmm.
So you graduate high school and you're choosing what's next. So tell me, where did you end up going to school at first? Was it Tech?
Yes, for a year I was at Tech.
So what did that look like to you? What were you? What was your major and what was the plan at that time?
So right before I got to Tech, long story short, because it could be my life story, but I really fought the calling to ministry. I did feel called to ministry, and it was a month before school started, like college started, that I was like, ministry is what I'm called to do. And so I was like, how do I do this? I'm going to do interior designing because I wanted to do real estate, actually, is what I wanted to do. And so I switched to family and child studies because I was like, ministry is ministering to families.
Right.
And so that's what I studied there for a year. And then while I was doing that, I was very involved with the BCM there, which is the Baptist Collegiate Ministry. And whenever I was there, I just had some people really pour into me, and they kind of helped me find ministry schools. And so then I left Tech.
Okay.
And that's whenever
all right. So the course is set.
Yeah.
We're going to interior design. We love real estate. We're going to go into real estate.
Yeah.
A couple weeks before school starts, you hear a word, and that word is that we need you to go on a different path.
Yeah.
So that calling happened. Mm-hmm. So when you go back and you start telling your family, saying, I know I'm here at Tech, but I'm feeling something else. How did that conversation go?
Actually, I was really nervous, not necessarily to have that conversation because my parents are very supportive people.
Sure.
But I was nervous for myself because I was like, is there stability in getting a degree in ministry? Is there, because anything could happen, and I didn't know. And so that's where I was really, really nervous. But it's just like everything was like laid out in front of me. Like the way it fell into place was so evident. And whenever I was at school, every quarter would come and I made good grades, but I was just like, something doesn't feel right, and I just didn't have this peace, which peace comes from the Lord.
Sure.
And so then in the summertime, I worked this vacation Bible school, and I didn't want to move for seminary, but this guy, he informed me, there's a program in Monroe that, through New Orleans Seminary, that can do this for you. And it just, as soon as I heard that, it just made sense. I was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. So my parents, when I told them and them just kind of seeing that storyline unfold too, it was just, they knew. They were like, we knew that, we could tell that the Lord has been working on you. And so they were very supportive of me deciding to pursue ministry.
And that's really great to hear.
Yeah.
what advice would you give where it relates to school for so many of our youth? Um, it's a difficult time because they're just so unsettled on life, and it sounds like things start lining out for you. But what do you think gave you an advantage that others may not have of being able to find peace with your decisions?
I think that honestly having a relationship with the Lord, I know that might sound cliche, but really because that peace that I had, like I would not have that if I was not a Christ follower. And then also I found good community, and I had people affirm me in my
Mm,
thoughts, and they were able from the outside to say, yes, like I see that. And like the Lord used them to confirm things and decisions that I was making as well.
great. So you're looking at leaving Louisiana Tech. So tell me the school that you ended up going to.
It's called Level College.
Okay.
So it is New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary's undergrad program.
Okay, great. So was all that online, and was did it happen here? Did you have to move? How did that work out?
So I stayed here in North Monroe Church. They don't have it anymore, but they had an extension center at the time. And I would go on Mondays, and I would be there all day Monday, and I would take class. And you could do all classes just there for, I think it was a 4-year rotation, and have an associate degree, or you could do online classes with it. So I did the online classes
Okay.
with it. Yeah.
I am hearing chatter that something like that is about to come back to the area
That
for.
would be great.
Yeah, I do believe that we're
Yeah.
going to have access to that real soon here.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to graduate, and what did you graduate in with at college?
Okay, so here's the funny thing. I'm actually not done with school.
Okay.
So I have 2 classes left. I was supposed to finish right whenever COVID hit, and I had to go to New Orleans to take the classes.
Yeah.
And then I got pregnant, which was
Okay.
planned, but we didn't know how long COVID was going to last. And so we started a family. So I'm 2 classes away from my degree, and I will finish.
So while you're going to college,
Yeah.
you're trying to get a degree in ministry related services. At some point, did you have any jobs? Talk to me about some of
Yeah.
the jobs you had leading up to you starting this business.
So right whenever I decided to do school, I took a position being a children's minister at Shinny
Okay.
Baptist Church, and I did that for 2 years. And that was one of those things where like it just made sense because I got offered this job the same time I found out about school. Well, then I found out because I worked at a smaller church, I was eligible for a scholarship, and I didn't have to pay
Great.
for my school, and I got TOPS.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
I was getting paid to go to school. And so I was able to really save and put back money, which was helpful in the long run. Like later, it really came in handy. And so I was able to save. And I guess like the big thing that was hard work wise was being in school. I got married young, but I had classes just on Monday. So I had literally Tuesday through Saturday, and then Sunday was a work day for me to really work. And so I was getting paid for school, but then I worked at a boutique, and then I did some babysitting stuff, and then I did the ministry job. And so I did all of these things, which really set me up later.
Sure.
But it was a lot to balance too.
But you missed out on that point to where you had a baby during that time.
Yeah.
You got married during that time. And I don't care what anybody says, a mom's job is way harder than a dad's job any day of the week.
It's hard.
So
Yeah.
being able to manage all of that, how did you keep your sanity?
So I ended up stepping back from a couple things. So I got married in 2018.
Okay.
And I was doing seminary starting in like 2017. And so once I got married, I decided to go to church with my husband. And I went there and I worked at the ULMBCM for a little while. And I did an internship there while doing school because it was just a lot easier on my schedule being able to do that.
Right.
And then, I finished my internship and I got offered another position being a girls minister with my husband at his church. And so I did that for a good while. And then I started the business while I did that online. And so it's like this whole progressive thing. But I didn't actually have my son until 2021, my
Okay.
first child. So it was a little bit later until I had to really like start balancing all of it.
So I've heard you say you took 2 different jobs as being a children's minister.
Yeah.
Is that just a job of chance, or is that something that was really speaking to you at that time?
It was something that I was very interested in because, like I mentioned, I was doing a ministry program helping with vacation Bible schools.
Right.
And so it really did spark children's ministry.
What about children's ministry really felt like it pulled you in?
I guess it was really, I grew up around, I have a large family, and we all like, there's kids everywhere. And so just being around those kids, I really did like see my heart for them. And the innocence of a child is just like a very relatable thing whenever it comes to faith.
Sure.
And so in that aspect, I really did have that, I guess, passion there. And then while I served in children's ministry, I mentioned how I went to girls' ministry. It was kind of then where my heart started to grow for, girls, so I could have more of the deeper conversations.
And I'm
too.
sure you probably learned that not every young lady was raised like you were,
Yeah.
didn't have the same morals, the
Absolutely.
same support center or support structure that you did. And I have nothing but girls, and I'll tell you that as a father, I am scared to death of them. My youngest 2 becoming teenagers.
Yeah,
Just the world we live in is just,
it
I mean,
is.
there's just so many traps for our youth.
I agree.
I'm sure every generation says that, our generation is the worst. I mean, it's there, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like when they have kids if they choose to do that.
Yeah.
So, was it in 2021 where you started your venture into retail sales?
Yes. So I had my son February 2021, and then I started. This is where people think I'm crazy because I started a business right after I had my first baby.
So tell me where the genesis of that came down to. So,
Yeah.
you're a new mom. You haven't been married that long.
Yeah.
Still a newlywed. You're in the ministry. You're taking college classes. You've got all these things going on. What was the driving force for you to start this business?
Truly, it was my family is a big thing, but also like ministry. Because I think people put ministry in a box. Like,
Okay.
ministry is not something that you just have to do in the church. Like we as disciples are called to go. And I missed that working in the church. I was really discipling and like helping believers, but I did miss the aspect of like helping those who didn't know Jesus. And I wasn't around those people as much. I was, ministering to those who already knew Jesus,
Right.
which is very important. And
It
I
is.
did enjoy that. And some people didn't know Jesus in the church too.
Correct.
But that was a huge driving force for me. And my husband, he is in ministry, and his long-term goal is to be a pastor. And so I know that I'm called to be his wife ultimately and his support person. And so for me to find an income outside of the church and that I could use as ministry was important for me. Because in the setting of the church, I feel like my calling there is to be his wife.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a pastor that when he would end the service, he would always let us know that church is out there.
Yeah.
Church is out there. Let's go out and be church would be something that he would say as he was ending. And I think that a lot of times we kind of, as believers, we miss that sometimes. We get into the day-to-day activities, and we're in the routine of going on Sundays. Some of us in the routine of going on Wednesdays, but we don't tend to carry it outside of those
Right.
walls to be able to minister other people throughout the week. So you said, I'm going to do something. So how
Mm-hmm.
did that something turn into what it is today?
Yeah. So growing up, I was always like, I would do like, I guess they're not all pyramid schemes, but like you sell the Scentsy or
Oh,
like the
yeah.
Monet and stuff like that. Or I would make bracelets and post them on Facebook and try to sell them. And so like I always loved like, I wanted to sell something. I don't
Right.
know. It was just interesting to me and I loved to work. Like I really did. And becoming a mom, I really missed working. Like it was kind of my escape outlet working, but also it is a creative side
Sure.
to owning a business. And so that's what led me to really wanting to open the business too, was like work is almost like my escape
Sure. We
in
all
a
want a
way.
sense of accomplishment and,
Yeah.
not to take anything away from you being an accomplished mother or accomplished wife. It's still, we're always kind of craving to be able just to have a little something that we can watch and see it grow. So when you
Yeah.
started thinking about all the things that you could do
hmm
for a business, how did you land on this?
I landed on this, the passion for retail, but then also girls ministry led to a passion for women. And I was thinking, what could I do that incorporates, my passion for women and moms, because I started to feel what it felt like to be a mom, but also what I like to do, because
Correct.
if I don't find something that I'm passionate about,
Sure.
then it's going to be really hard to enjoy it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
your passion will ultimately come through the work that you do,
Yeah.
which will be a magnet to attract people so that
hmm
I'm assuming you can have the conversations with
Yeah.
or look for the needs that may be out there. So how long from proof of concept, like we're thinking about it, till you launch your online store?
So
And let's go ahead and tell the people. I don't think I even said it. So
yeah,
the name of your company is
it's Little Rays.
Little Rays.
Yes.
And how'd you come up with that name?
So that is really the title of my store, really is what the overall reason why I started it is because, children are little rays. Like they are. Like
They
they
are.
are this joy and they are this light. Not all the time. Sometimes they can be hard. I get that.
Absolutely.
But I just do see I just view a child very differently, than maybe some people do. But I just see like this innocence, and it just brings me back to like faith. But also, I can use this business to be a little ray in a mom's life, because I have moms who are coming in my store to shop for their child. And then I have grandmas who are coming in to shop for a child. And so it all comes back down to it's about this child. But I see a mom and I can, talk to her about her day or whatnot. And sometimes a mom might be having a rough day. And
Yeah.
I'm the first adult conversation she's had in a while.
Sure.
And I can just use that as a moment to say, like, you're doing a good job, And then the aspect of financially is there's some ministries in the area that help with like teen pregnancies and moms that I'm working on trying to do some things with them and just giving financially into like mothers who need help, whether they're single moms or I have a heart for teen pregnancy.
Sure.
And helping in those areas as well.
So 2001, you come up with the idea. You've
Yeah.
got the name.
Mm-hmm.
How do you determine the what? I mean, I know
Yeah.
that you want to be children's with babies. You're a new mom, so it's really fresh on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
The things that you would like as a mom to be able to have for your kids.
Yeah.
So walk us through the setup and what will that look like for your online sales?
Yeah. So for online,
Because that's where it really started at, right?
yes, it started off online. And so before launching, it was really hard because there's a lot that goes into
Sure.
growing a business and starting a business that you don't see. And so, I mean, there were like getting the licenses, the resale certificate, finding the inventory, making sure that it's good quality, your EIN, like all of those things. And so I got all of that. And then I really, really focused on like e-commerce research.
Okay.
And so the e-commerce side of things is really hard after COVID because a lot of people were like, I'm going to online shop, which is also a blessing, but it's very, your needle in a haystack as a
You are.
business.
And I think it's even more. You're like a tiny little amoeba
Yes.
in this huge world of having to compete with
Yes.
everyone else, and just to be able to stand up and get noticed is difficult. You know, I'm sure you'll see these videos come across your social media or YouTube where everybody's talking about, you know, drop shipping, just these online stores. It's so easy to make so much money in it. And I'm sure there's people that have made lots of money doing it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's you've got, it's not just I'm gonna click a few buttons and the cash is gonna start rolling in.
Yeah.
You've really got to work at it, especially if you want to do it the right way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So did you how long from setup to first sale was it for you?
So I started setting everything up in June.
Okay.
And then my first sale was September 2nd, 2021. That's whenever I launched the online store.
Okay.
And I just remember sitting there on the screen and like there's a map and it would show me when like people got online, like what they were looking at and like where they were located. And I was just like sitting there because it like the anticipation.
Sure.
And like this is where like you would think I'd be like, I sold out. No. Like I had a rough time selling. And like I think that's the story that you don't hear a lot from a business owner. And whenever I started this, I told my husband, I was like, I'm marrying this business. Like, I mean, obviously not like legit,
Sure.
like marriage is way more important. But
You're
I
gonna
just
give it everything you got.
exactly. And there are going to be times where it's going to be hard and I'm not going to feel like doing it, but I just need to know like, you know, come back to like my why
Right.
also.
Now, was this the setup to where you were actually having to purchase the inventory, bring it into your house, and then sell? So you've got a financial investment in this.
Yes.
It's like if this doesn't work, I just burden the family a little bit because we've got all this stuff and nobody's wanting to buy it. So
Yeah.
you really took a big step out there on that.
Yeah, a very big one.
So the commitment was real. But I also think that people need to hear from you that if anything's worth having, it's going to require work.
Yeah.
What we tend to see on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest of people making it big, you only saw just this much. You didn't get to see their ugliness that it took it from that point. So we're July setting it up. September we launch. We make a first sale in September, but we're still sitting on a ton of inventory.
Correct.
So 30 days into it, you got this inventory. You've been live for 30 days. What were you thinking at the end of that 30 days?
Well, my thought was, okay, I have people who have purchased, right? Well, in order to get them to make another sale, I have to get more inventory in. You know, and that's the cycle of retail. Like whenever you find a customer, you then have to figure out how to satisfy their next need or want.
Right.
And so if you don't have constant like drops in inventory coming in, then they're going to go somewhere else because there's not something fresh and something new. And so I was just like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, what do I do? And like I said, it's a needle in a haystack thing with online. And so for about a year, I wrestled with like, what do I do with not just inventory? And I was able to like, you know, add stuff to it, but it was a very slow thing and it wasn't super consistent at this time either. I have 2 kids, so I had another baby during this as well. And I had a very high risk pregnancy. And that was like a lot with it. So I kind of slowed down for a bit. But once I had my second son and I hit my 1-year mark, I was like, I'm doing this all I got, like putting it all out there. We invested some more money into it and I kind of restarted. And just was like, okay, that business plan didn't work. It's okay to restart. Like, it is okay. Like, if something's not working, then restart. And then that's whenever I started to find more success.
So what do you think the a couple of keys, points that you would like someone else to know that's trying to provide for their family or they want to take a non-traditional path? So I'm going to refer to this as a little non-traditional.
Yeah.
Most people have an expectation that when you graduate college or you get out of school, you're done with school, that you go find a 9-to-5 job, and then you work there for 30 years, you retire, and then you just live on a beach someplace. Well, that's not the plan for everybody.
Right.
I think the economy that we have now has really afforded a lot of opportunities to people to get creative and get paid in ways that were not available 20 years ago. For you, a young wife and mother that has aspiration of owning her own business, was still possible 20 years ago, but the ease of setting it up, even though it did take you some time to get it set up, those opportunities were not as possible as that they are today. The internet has really opened up so many different doors for people, and I think COVID really showed us that people can get creative and produce income that they normally wouldn't have the opportunity to. This podcast is possible because of your support of our real estate business. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, I'm confident we have the tools and the processes to help you reach your real estate goal. For more information or to reach out to us, check out the podcast description for our contact info. So we're a year into it. You're like, this is just not working. We got to come up with a different plan. What are some changes that you made to your online, because you're still online with this, all the inventory sitting in your house and it's coming in, you're packing up, you're shipping it out.
Yeah.
What changes did you make that got you over that hump to where we're now starting to see a trend? And it's important. I want people to understand that before we started recording here today, we want to make sure that people understand and know that you didn't go viral all of a sudden and you just got this huge windfall, but you figured something out within your business to where you started seeing incremental growth that's happened, good steady growth, because you were taking action in the areas that needed to be taken action, and you learn from the mistakes that you had in the past. So talk to us about a little bit of what you changed that where you seen that turn happen in your business.
Yeah. So the big shift was I kind of lost my why. Like, I looked at my business and I was like, I want this to provide.
Right.
And so I came back to, like, why am I doing this? And it is for the people. Like, it really is. And so once I came back to, like, my audience is not my buyer, my audience is my community. And that was a huge shift.
So I want to pause right there.
Yeah.
So for the people that I feel honored that are listening to this, that is a big moment that applies to just about everything in life that we do. If we want to see success in just about anything, you got to remind yourself of why you're doing it. Because if you're doing it strictly for the money, in most cases, it's not gonna take you to next, because that money, whatever it can buy for you or the security you have, that is just temporary.
You're so right.
It is so temporary. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, that it's determining what your why is, no matter what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a huge key to your success. Now, there's other things that have to come into play, but that's the foundation. That's the foundation, how everything should be built. So sorry for interrupting your rhythm. I just want to make sure that I just emphasize that point, because too many people, they miss that. They're all about, I got to make 6 figures, then I got to make 7 figures on this stuff. All of that is great, but if that is your why, you're going to crash and fall at some point. Because that is not worth working for. No. It's the why that you really are trying to do it.
Absolutely.
All right, so you refocused on your why.
Yes, I refocused on my why, and so I was like, okay, well, I do have to make sales though. So, like, how do I combine, like, a community, but also, like, I have to make sales? Like, this is kind of an awkward thing because I don't want to, like, post something and it just seems so salesy. And so I started a brand ambassador program. So basically, I have a small group of girls locally and out of state, and they have, like, they have to make a purchase a month, they get a discount with it, and then they have to, like, post it on their social media. And throughout doing this, I have made some really good friends with these girls. Like, I really have, because, like, I'm communicating with them more. I'm able to hear what other people want, and then they're able to tell me. So it's not just, like, my eyes. I have people from around the U.S. saying, like, hey, this is what I want. Like, this is what I'm having a hard time finding. And so that has helped. but it also established where I had a continuing like 10 sales within a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's what I started with to kind of figure it out. And then I'm getting those sales to keep the inventory coming in. So it was consistent. And then I started doing pop-up shops locally. So every weekend I would set up somewhere, whether it was at the farmer's market, um, like events that have vendors, I was there. If I found one, I was going to be there. I made a way. My husband, he had the kids, and I would go.
How would you know what to take? And because I'm thinking, I visited your website earlier this morning, and there is a lot of stuff, a lot of options out there. How did you figure out what to bring? Because there's so many options.
Yeah, so I would do it a lot by season, but then also if I told somebody I have more online, it would give them the curiosity that once they left, they would go online and I could get a sale that way.
But the pop-ups, that's very labor intensive. I mean, it's work.
It is.
That has to happen. So, I mean, you're probably sun up to sundown, probably well before the sun comes up, you're having a setup. Then you have to tear it all down, and then you're there with it like the whole entire time because you're trying to sell and promote your brand and you're trying to listen to people. So it was, I'm sure it was a lot. It was not just a lot on you, but probably a lot on the family itself.
It really was. And there would be moments where I'd say, okay, like my family is more important. So I would say, I'm not going to do something this Saturday, and then I would refocus. And something I do want to mention real quick is, you said I have a lot online, is, I don't know, this is really honest, but like I still yet to this day have given myself like a paycheck. And the reason why is I started off this business with $1,000, and now you go online and there's a lot of options, is because I've continually reinvested everything in it. Now, come January, that's changing because I've got to start rewarding myself.
Absolutely.
But that is another thing that I think people don't get to. It's like, it isn't like this quick fix. Like if you want your business to grow, it does take like income to go back into it as
absolutely
well.
Does. So, and so I think a key takeaway is that to start a business, and there could be millions of different businesses that an individual can start, but it's going to require some sacrifice.
Yes.
Now, sure, there's some exceptions to every rule where you've got someone that just, hits something right off the bat and it just shoots off like a rocket ship, and it may last, it may not, and they may not have had a whole lot of sacrifice through that. But most successful businesses require sacrifice, and not just sacrifice of a weekend. It's some prolonged sacrifice. If you truly believe in what you're doing, you want to see it to succeed, you're going to have to sacrifice something to make it happen.
For sure.
So you made the shift, you got the brand ambassador, which I would have never thought about that, which is an ingenious idea, because for those that don't know much about internet traffic, just having people that are coming to your site once a month on a regular basis tells Google that, hey, there may be something here, and it's just going to help you get a little bit higher up in that haystack. You're not making massive jumps overnight, but it's definitely helping you.
It is.
At that point. And then for someone that is out there advertising for you, and all it cost you was a discount on the product, it's the cheapest form of advertising that you can come up with.
It really is.
And it's not that these people are trying to sell something that they don't believe in. I can assure you that if they were getting it for free, or you were actually paying them, they may hawk some stuff that they think is not worth it just to get more of it.
Right.
But they had a vested interest in this. They were having to use their money to get it, and if they didn't like it, they wouldn't keep coming back.
Right.
So I think that was a great idea. So you did the pop-ups, you got the influencers out trying to push your message. How did that take you, or are there some other things that kind of led you down to the success as you started seeing that line climbing up and your profits?
So then my husband is a business major from ULM, so he's been very helpful when it comes to a business plan and looking at numbers. And so then I just mentioned to him, I was like, these pop-ups are doing amazing, like so good. Like I think my worst pop-up I did like $400 that day, which is like really not even bad for a few hours.
Sure.
And so I was like, they're doing really, really well. So we kind of started doing numbers. And then at these pop-ups, I just started asking the community, like, what would your thoughts be if there were another kids store around? Like, just being very open and seeing, and a lot of people had that desire. Because also what I sell is very unique. Also, it's a little bit different than what is local. And so I was like, okay, well, let's look and see like how that would look. And then we took the numbers and we lined them out and kind of said, okay, this is what we're doing at pop-ups. Obviously, you have such an influx of people coming up. So we scaled that number down from like an average, scaled it down a certain amount, and then started seeing what overhead price was. And so that's whenever we were able to say, this would do good. Like, it really would. And then my online sales started getting to a consistent number. And so that's where I was able to say, if I have a rough storefront month, well, I have online sales that are covering my overhead costs.
Sure.
And so at that point, it didn't feel so much like a risk. Like, business is always a risk.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a risk, but the calculation of the risk is where the success is going to come in.
Right.
So you guys kind of ran through the numbers. The numbers are like, you know what? It's going to take some hard work, but I think we can do it.
Yes.
So when did you start? So 2021, September, first sale was made. You went live. When did y'all really start looking at opening up a storefront?
I would say it was like January 2023. So like this
First of this year.
Yes.
Started really thinking about it.
And like starting to form a business plan.
Okay.
Because a lot goes into a business plan.
It does.
A lot. And I've listened to some podcasts too, just to help me on like forming a business plan. And the best one and a good piece of advice that I found was like, if you always view yourself small, you're going to stay small. And so when I know people might walk past Little Ray's and be like, oh, the little store. But like, whenever I think of Little Ray's, like, I don't think that. Like, I am working backwards. And so instead of starting like small and working my way up, I'm looking at where my end goal is, and I'm trying to start there and work my way backwards. And that was just something I learned on a business podcast. And it made a lot of sense. Like, it really, really did. And so that's kind of like where my brain is there. And we had to get the business model to reflect that.
Sure.
Which was a lot of work.
So, I know there's a lot of work that goes into it, but I also going to agree with you again. I mean, you think small, you're going to always be small. But, it's taking it back to women's ministry. I know a lot of young ladies suffer from self-worth issues. And it's because nobody ever, in some cases, ever told them that they could be great, or that they are loved, or they are beautiful. They feel like they have to chase this fictitious image that's out there online, that they have to be this or they're nothing.
Right.
If you think small, you'll always be small. And sometimes it takes someone like you to tell people that, look, you're worth more. It's funny that you mentioned that, talking about small. I watched a video, somebody was giving an analogy similar to this, and they had a jar of fleas, and they put them, a flea can jump like 3 feet.
Yeah.
Put the fleas in this jar that had a lid on. I mean, it was like 4 or 5 inches. The lid stayed on the jar for just a couple of days. They took the lid off the jar, and the fleas knew where their limit was, so that's as high as they jumped. And when they took the lid off, all the fleas stayed in because they were thinking small at that point.
That's a really good analogy.
They still could have jumped out had they wanted to, or knew that they could, but they didn't because they were thinking small, because that's how high they thought their ceiling was. So you and your husband put the business plan together. You're sitting down and you're like, okay, now where do we go? So talk to me about that process of why you chose the location you chose.
So originally, downtown was not in my sphere. And then this is just where like doors kind of started to open is I became friends with Anai. She owns Vince & Co. downtown. She started off similarly to me. She was online, and then she opened a storefront. And so I talked to her, and she just gave me good advice. She's just like, when you think about a place in West Monroe area that has foot traffic. Who has foot traffic? Downtown West Monroe. Like, there really aren't a ton of places that just have people that stroll.
Right.
And I was like, that's good advice. And then I spoke to another business owner that moved down there from a different location for a better location. And she's like, this is where you want to start. Well, then we started to look at leasing prices. And I found a building that just had a really great price for me to lease it out. And we eyed it for a very long time. And it was a sweet lady trying to, like, get out of her lease. And so I didn't know how to make it work. Like, I was really nervous. You know, I have a family. I didn't know what to do. So I really started to speak to people and just say, what is your advice? And my dad owns a business, and he was able to give me good advice. And my mom was able to give me good advice. And so, and then along with other people that I know that own retail businesses. And so they were just really like, you know, don't let fear get in the way.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, things will work out. And even someone was like, and if it doesn't work out, like, what's the worst thing? You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be in a loss if it didn't work out for you.
Right.
You tried. And I was like, you're right. And so I just needed to kind of hear that. And I went to go look at this building and, like, just go look. And there was someone looking at it. And the lady was like, we're signing on it tomorrow. And I was distraught. I was so bummed. I was like, well, it's just the timing's not right.
Sure.
You know. And then went home. I just prayed about it. And I was like, you know, your will be done, you know. And if this isn't what you have for me and this is not your plan, then, like, I'm okay with that because God knows better than I do. And then I was downtown doing something, I don't remember, and I saw that the sign was still there, and the lady who was going to rent it, something came up. She wasn't able to, so I called, and she's like, yes, like, I'm still trying to find somebody. So we looked at it, and it was like 3 days later we signed it, and then she was so nice. And she was like, look, you did me a favor by, like, helping me find someone to be here, that she paid for, like, my first month's lease. And so that was just, and that's a big deal because that first month you're not doing sales, you're working on the place. And so location was, I mean, it all kind of fell together, but our city of West Monroe is really putting a lot into revitalizing downtown. And I was like, even that speaks for itself. And
it does.
Businesses there are very community, and that is so helpful as well. And then the foot traffic, and then also the space that I'm in, it has enough room for me to have a back area for my online store and then have my storefront in the front.
Great.
And that was a really big deal for me. Yeah.
So up until this time, had you hired any employees? Did you have anybody working for you during this time before you went into the store?
No, I did not.
So you're doing 100%, and I'm sure your husband had to jump in at times and help deliver packages to the post office or wrap some stuff.
I actually did local delivery too.
Okay.
So if someone lived within a certain radius from where I lived, for free, so you wouldn't have to pay shipping, I would drop it into their mailbox. Even.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, there were times where I'm like, all right, I'm going to get my mileage in. I'm going to go do some deliveries.
Hey, but what a great thing to be able to show people that you're in it to ensure their success with it, and you're committed to the quality that your business brings. All right. So what month you signed the lease on?
I signed the lease. It was in August. And so it was literally like, I think August 5th was whenever we were.
And when did you have your grand opening? You launched
September 2nd. So I launched I thought this was really cool too. Online, I launched on September 2nd, 2021. And then my grand opening date fell on Saturday, September 2nd of 2023. So it's like my 2-year birthday.
I mean,
for a little raise.
Did it plan that? I mean, did you think about it at the time?
I really did not until after the lease was signed.
Wow.
I was like, wait, this is like, it landed on a Saturday. Like, that was really cool. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that there was setup costs to get the business off the ground when you were just online.
Yes.
And I'm sure you had to save and do some sacrifice to be able to get that up and running. But now we're really kind of talking a whole new set of expenses to get a storefront up, because now you really have to have the inventory on hand, or that foot traffic that you're relying on to come in is not
Right.
going to be there. You have to have the lease. You got to have the racks and the displays, the point of sale information. So there was probably a pretty good expense to get the storefront up. Would that be correct to say?
Correct.
And
Yes.
when you and your husband were working on this business plan, did y'all have to get any lenders involved to help you get that business loan so that you can get the storefront up and running?
So we did get a loan, and the loan was enough to cover what you said. It was really the expense of the materials to start the store, and then to get some additional, like new inventory
Sure.
for, a new store.
So I would have to assume the banker wanted to see your business plan.
Yes.
So tell just so people that don't know, just describe a little bit of that process, because this is how it's done the right way. If
Yeah.
you want to do it the right way, there's a process that has to take place. You can't just walk in. I guess some people can, but I mean,
yeah.
normal people can't just walk into any bank in town and say, "Hey, I need X number of dollars. I'm going to go open up a retail store. Where do I pick up my cash?" I mean, there's a process. So what did that process look like for you?
Showing a business plan is one, and I had not developed business credit yet. So you want to have a good credit score on yourself is a big thing. So your the way you handle your finances personally really does affect, like, if you want to own a business too. And I think some people don't realize that as well. But thank goodness we were in a good place. And then the size of your loan. And so my loan, thank goodness, was on a lower scale.
Sure.
Because I have the inventory. A lot of it was already there for the store because I had grown that. And then just saving and putting back as I did pop-ups and stuff. So that was helpful. I'm trying to think what
But
else I missed.
the lender, they wanted you to be able to demonstrate,
Yes.
this is what I have, this is what I plan to do, and this is how I plan to repay you. They want to know
Yes.
all those things, and they want to, they may not know how every item that you're going to be selling, but they need to know that you have got a plan that is setting you up for success, I guess would be the best way of putting it.
And so that's where it really helped, that going back in the beginning of the year, and I told you we really crunched numbers.
Right.
We were able to present that and say, this is the numbers I have. These are my average sales. This is how much I would pay you back in a month for a loan, but I'm exceeding it by this much. And
Sure.
so then you have to take in the account, if I'm selling in person, I'll even be getting potentially more sales there. And so
Right.
they really want to see, like, they went back, they look at your sales, your numbers, how much you've done, and the consistency of it too. And so that was a big, they want to know they're going to get their money back.
Sure.
Right?
And here's an area that, and you can probably speak to this, nobody likes to pay any more in taxes than what they have to pay in.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, one of the biggest mistakes I see business owners make is doing what they can to pay as few taxes as possible, and they can't show the worth of their business. Nobody likes to pay taxes, but taxes are necessary if we want to have good schools, good roads, and good infrastructure. But I'll see too many businesses that they'll try to claim so many stinking expenses they can't show profitability. Well, when you're trying to go to a lender and say, look, I'm ready to grow, and I need to borrow some money to make that happen, need to invest back in my business. When they look at your financials, they're going to want to see, what did you report to the IRS?
Right.
Because it's not what you tell me you're making. I want to know what you told Uncle Sam you're making.
Yeah.
And if you can't demonstrate that to people, the banks are just not going to loan you what you're asking for. So not only should you have a good business plan, but you need to be good with your finances within your business. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You got to show your business is profitable. And there's some legitimate tax advantages a business owner can take that doesn't devalue their business,
Right.
but you've got to be able to show the value.
Mm-hmm.
Another problem, just so give you a quick tip down the road, if you ever want to sell your business
Yeah.
and you are not showing your true income on it, you just devalue the value of your business because people doesn't. You can't show that it really makes some money. You can tell them, but
Yeah.
people don't buy on hopes and dreams. They want to buy
That
based
is
on
so true.
they want to buy on
Oh,
facts.
yeah. That's a good
So
advice.
we launched the business.
Yes.
Doors open. How did the community show up?
I don't like to, okay, let me restart. So I'm like a person of expectations. I'm very cautious with. Obviously, launch day, I told you, I was sitting there expecting to like sell out. I mean, I had sales I did that day, but my expectation, I was just like, I was kind of crushed. And so, launch day, I did not want to have this huge expectation. Like, I didn't. And I was just like, I'm going to count it all joy. Like, I know this is where I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to do it. And I'm just going to count every sale I have, like, count it joy. And I was just giddy to say, like, I'm here.
But still a little nervous.
I was very nervous. And so it was also, like, really, really hard because a lot of my family got, like, COVID the day that I opened, too.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so, like, a lot of people that were my support system that were supposed to help
Right.
me and be there, like, they weren't able to be there. And so that kind of made things hard, and it was late nights doing things alone. But like, I cannot even express how, like, grateful I felt and just thankful for the community that we have and people that I didn't even know that they would come in and say, like, I really don't have, like, kids or anything, but I just want to know that, like, I'm here to support you. And, like, that was just so neat. And I have just built so many relationships by having a storefront and been able to just see people's faces more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have people that are just coming in and they're like, I was strolling downtown. I just wanted to come say hey. And that just means the world to me. Or sometimes if I'm not there and I have an employee, they'll be like, somebody stopped in. And so that's been just really, really cool because my why, I can express that so much more now that I'm in the community. And that's just I'm getting giddy talking about it.
Well, I think it's
Yeah.
great. And, you don't need to lose that because there's going to be a time in your life. I know it happens to everybody where things will happen, setbacks may happen, whether it be personal or professional. But being able to always come back to that why will get you out of that rut every single time.
Absolutely.
So the store's open. Day one sales. You said I didn't want to set expectations on it. I just want to experience whatever happens. I'm just going to be thankful for it. But what happened?
I mean, it was phenomenal. Like, it really was. Afterwards, I was like, I need to go order more inventory. Like, it was a big thing. And so I had to actually pause my online store for a while because I just needed more inventory. And so I placed like a really big bulk order, restocked, and yeah. And downtown always has a bunch of events and stuff. And so I wanted to make sure I had inventory for those things coming up too. But financially, the means were very encouraging. Like, they really, really were. And since then, like, they still have been very encouraging. And I don't mean this in like an artificial way, but kindness just goes a long way.
Oh,
Like,
tell
it
me
really
about it.
does. And people just want to know that, like, you care for them. Like, they really do. Because whenever you're at home and you're like, are on our phones all the time, like, kindness is not always there.
Right.
And so I just can say, like, that's been something that's been beneficial on my end. It's just like seeking to serve my customer. Like, I'm not better than my customer is,
Sure.
And that's something where I always want to stand owning a business is to always be humble and always be kind and always be teachable. Like, if I ever feel like I have it figured out, that's going to make me miss out on an opportunity to learn. And so really I'm trying to soak that in as well. But I've received great feedback And I've received people say like, "Hey, what about this?" And it's something I haven't done,
Right.
but I have to take that humbly and say, "No, you're right." Like, and I have learned that way as well. So
How did you become so wise so young?
that would be the Lord.
Uh,
Wisdom comes from the Lord. And sometimes I don't feel like I'm always the most wise, but
well, you're making some good decisions, and I know that your family has definitely had a role
yes,
and impact
they
on
have.
you. So how do you go from I've got the set of ideals, and we want to be humble, we want to be servants, want to serve our community, and then now you have to go and put your trust in an employee to where
Right.
you're not going to be there all the time, and is that person going to deliver the mission that we've set out, and are they going to carry out my words to other people? You talk to business owners all the time, and the struggle of finding good quality employees
Right.
sometimes can be tough, finding people who are willing to work. How have you attacked that? I know you haven't been up and running a whole long time, but
Right.
you've probably had some experiences so far trying to find people to hire.
Yeah. Yeah. So right now I've got 2 people that I have hired. And so it's us two and then myself. And I would just say like the biggest thing is whenever I started this business, I was clear on my expectations. I created an employee policy and went over it with them. And that was very important to me because right now I have people working for me that I personally know, which has been helpful. But long term, as it scales, it's not
Sure,
going to always be that way.
that's correct.
And so I just told them, look, things will change. It's not that they might, they will. This is a new business. I'm going to learn better ways that things need to run. And you may see things that I don't see, and please vocalize them. Like you are made differently than I am, so you'll notice things.
Sure.
And so even it was like 2 weeks ago, I was like, look, we're all going to meet. It's holiday season coming up, but I need to just refresh. And there are things that I need to change. And so we got together, had lunch, and then I was just like, after we ate, I said, all right, that was like friend Kinsley. Now this is like, I'm your boss.
Yeah.
And so but it's not fair for me to expect something from somebody if they don't know my expectation. Like, I can't just expect it because, I mean, that's just not an advantage for them. And then that just would get me upset because they don't know what they want. And so
Sure.
I just restarted and I was like, these are things that are going to change and these are things that I would like to see. And since then, I have had zero problem, like at all. And any problem that I had before, it wasn't a problem with them, it was a problem with me.
Yeah,
It was a me problem, not saying this is what I expect.
that's correct.
Now, later down the road, when I have to hire people that I don't know, it might be a little more difficult, but that's why I have that policy in place. So it's not something that I have to come back and do later. It's already there.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So it's twice that you've you mentioned what we're talking that you've restarted.
Yeah.
That's twice. And I think it's important for people to understand that if something's not working right, it is okay to restart. It is okay to change what's not working well.
Right.
You may have people say, well, why are you constantly changing? Well, because I'm trying to get better. You know,
Yeah.
I got to make things happen. And I love that you are already working on the policy, so it doesn't have to be about us personally. It's that, well, let's go back and see what the policy says about it, because this is what we went over when you got hired.
Right.
And it's not we're changing anything. It's just this is what we all agreed to, and this is what our standard is. And I think that's wonderful that you started that right outside the gate, because it can take personal feelings and set them aside and say, this is how the business is supposed to run. And if you're not on board with that, then, you know,
Right.
maybe this is not the right place for you. So I think you're doing a great job with that. I do want to touch on, before we end, the continued ministry that you're doing for the young ladies. You mentioned that teen pregnancy. I don't know if at a crisis level is right for us. I recently, my wife and I become volunteers for CASA and are getting to see the least of these and how they're impacted, and hearing the stories about these young mothers that are having kids and not having any support system that's coming along with it. So talk to me a little bit about of kind of how you have that interwoven within your business to be able to give back to the community.
Yeah, so right now it's like a percentage of sales is designated to helping. And the hard thing is like some of it is a private thing
Sure.
because people, like I was able to help a mom pay her electricity bill one time or provide formula for another mom and diapers and wipes. But those are things that are done privately
Sure.
for the mom. But also, I mean, I don't want that to be like an advertising thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing
No,
this out of the sincerity of like the business.
so yes, and I'm glad you pointed that
Yeah.
out. And I'm not bringing it up for to pat you on the back, even though I do
No,
think that
yeah.
it's admirable that you're doing it. But I think if we're going to be good stewards of our community, we have to be in a servant leadership role, and
Yeah.
we have to recognize where there are needs.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone else, maybe it's not the path that you're traveling,
Yeah.
but maybe it's I don't know, picking up trash in the community. It could be
Yeah.
anything, but I think as a business owner within the community that is taking from the community is supporting, I do think that it's very positive for businesses to stay engaged and to make their place better than when they found it. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate the passion that you have for these young ladies, and
Yeah.
it's like you're continuing that ministry. You're not working inside the four walls of the church. You're out being the church in the community
For sure.
and still being able to give back to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And long term, I'm like right now working with some organizations here locally so that like Little Rays can branch and help. One of them being the Vine Ministry.
Mm.
And so I met with them and talked with them. So we're about to get some stuff going.
So it's not
Yeah.
always about they need to come to you for the help.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's come to you, and you may tell them where they can get the help that they need.
Exactly. Yes.
Being able to be that conduit to take them to next.
Yes. Be a resource.
Yeah, so that's something else I love about our community is that we have so many Christian ministries that are so good at their one thing to where, as a community, we've learned to kind of know where to point people to because this area is specializing in this and they can help you better than what this area can. So
Yeah.
you staying plugged into that, I think, is going to be wonderful.
Absolutely.
So Christmas is coming, holidays are coming. The store, I'm sure you're trying to get it stocked for that to
Yes.
stay ahead of everything. If there's one piece of advice we could kind of end on, and let's try to speak to your generation.
Okay.
I feel on some levels the work ethic for my preceding generations is not where it used to be. And for me, I'm having to understand or come to an understanding that work is not done like it's always been. So we're having to look at new paths for people, whether it be remote work or whatever the case may be. But for someone young trying to start a business, what's some advice that you would, if someone walked up to you on the street and said, look, I really love what you did here and I've listened to your story. What's a couple of things you would tell me I need to do if I wanted to head down the path to open my own business?
I would say have a why is a big thing. Like, why are you doing this? And if your answer is income, just know that like that can be like one day that can tire you out. Like it really, really can, because that's just not where your happiness is going
Sure.
to be. But secondly, is like whenever you go to do it, like I said going into it, I'm marrying this thing. Like it is a roller coaster. It's everywhere. And so you have to put yourself in a situation to where like you don't mind doing the hard work. And so if you think that it's going to be a quick finance fix, starting a business, like that's not it at all. If you don't have a why, then you're not going to have that motivation to get up those roller coasters whenever you fall down, if you have a bad day. And so I would say that, in particular for my generation, is just like, I think we are consumers and we need to start being creators. And, instead of consuming and finding everything that like the world can satisfy me with. Like, I think that we have more to offer than, we let ourselves know. And so, personally, that's where I can just come back to saying, like, I know why the Lord created me was to, like, glorify Him and enjoy Him forever. Like, that's what He wants me to do. And if I have joy in this business and, like, I can glorify God with that, then I'm going to take that opportunity to do it. But if I was always asking the world what it was going to offer me, then I wouldn't have found that joy and that peace and known those things. And so really, you can take any passion that you have and you can use it for ministry, and you can take any business that you want to do and use it for ministry. But ultimately, it's going to start with you. Like, it's going to start with you as an individual and just putting in the hard work that people don't see. Like, people won't see those things, but it does pay off, and it will pay off long term, And I'm sure you could say the same thing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I've had the opportunity to work with some younger agents and some entrepreneurs on business, how to increase sales, things of that nature. And
Yeah.
I really love how you are leading with your why, because that is so true. But something that I run into is that there are some people that don't know what their why is.
Right.
And if you don't know what your why is and you're having difficulty figuring out what your why is, then I'm going to ask you, do you know what joy is?
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what joy truly is, it's going to be very difficult to find your why.
I'd agree.
And for anybody that's watching this or listening to this, if you need help finding your joy, I'd love to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely.
So thanks again for giving to our community. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Thank you.
Mayor Mitchell and her team have worked so hard of pulling the downtown area just in a matter of a few years, taking it from where it was, which was not horrible, to where it is now, to where it's a lot more vibrant today than what it was. And knowing that we have a downtown Main Street manager that actually, Miss Adrian, that actually works in the downtown area, she is connected within that. It's Shop West Monroe is here. Shop Ouachita Parish is here. Online is great, and people are going to shop online, and online's what got you here. But you're reinvesting back in our community, and those tax dollars will go in to help other things, and you're here to invest in people too. So thank you for that, and I'm glad you agreed to come in and do this. I hope this story can, if it can just touch one person's life, and for them to find out what their why is, and be able to take that why to the next level. And it doesn't have to be what you're doing; it can be anything in life. That they can take their why and do great things with it. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate you coming in and doing this with me.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Very grateful to be here. I was excited, and so I've enjoyed my time. And if anyone is listening and they are curious, like, for real, reach out to me. Like, I'm a community over competition kind of girl. There are plenty of people in this world
Absolutely
for us. And so if someone wants to start a retail store or a kids boutique, I mean, like, for real, I will sit down and have coffee with you and help you figure things out too.
So tell people, and we'll post in the show notes as well. The name of your store again is
Little Ray's.
Little Ray's, and you're located at
210 Trenton Street, which is where the costume shop used to be in downtown West Monroe.
What are you on either side of?
I'm on the side of Rumo's, like where Rumo's is right beside it.
Fantastic. And if they wanted to visit your online store, how do they get to it?
It's littlerays.shop.
Littlerays.shop. Fantastic. Thanks again. And I haven't been in your store, and I'm going to do a pop-in within the next week or two. I don't plan on having any more little ones, but you never know what God's going to.
You never know.
You never know. So I'm not going to say it's never going to happen, but it's going to take His hand to make it happen. Thanks again, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to watch or listen to this podcast. We really appreciate your involvement. Please leave us a comment, or even better yet, subscribe to this podcast and hit that notification bell so that you can be alerted for every new episode when it hits.